You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello everyone, Brommer18 here. Thank you for joining me in another video today. Hope all of you are doing well. In this video, we are doing another FIFA 20 tactics recreation, the series where I show you how to recreate and also adapt real life systems so that they will actually work in game. Today, we switch our focus onto that renowned Leicester City Claudio Ranieri tactic. Renowned most for the surprising and historic Premier League title win in 2016. So this has been without doubt one of the most requested on the channel in recent times, so we're going to be taking a look at it today, and I'll be showing you exactly how to recreate how it was in real life. So first things first, we'll look at the formation. Of course, it was a 4-4-2, and that was one of the things that also got quite a lot of sort of focus in sort of the sports news outlets and everything. The fact that people did say it was a dying formation, but Claudio Ranieri proved everyone wrong and said we're going to play 4-4-2, we're going to stick to this system, and it's going to be successful for us. So you will of course switch to a 4-4-2, but what you want to do is you want to make it a holding rather than a 4-4-2 flat. This is because then you'll find the two central midfielders will sit deeper, offer more protection. Of course, you've only got two rather than three, so they'll offer more protection in that midfield, and then they're going to get forward a lot less because of course in this case it would have been the likes of N'Golo Kante and Danny Drinkwater as well. They're not really box to box players. Of course Kante has taken up that role a bit more since he's moved to Chelsea, but particularly at Leicester, he was very much that defensive minded midfielder. You wouldn't see him getting forward too much, and the same with Drinkwater. He was more of a deep lying playmaker type player. So you want these to offer protection, and therefore changing them to holding mids will allow you to do that. Other than that though, there's not really much you need to do in terms of changing positions or whatnot. So we can move on straight to the instructions. First of all, we'll start off with Kasper Schmeichel. The one thing you want to change is comes for crosses. That's because what we do talk about in these videos is how it's quite hard to defend the likes of corners and crosses as well. If your keeper comes for crosses, you'll find they're a bit overpowered on this game. Therefore, because they're a bit more protected, if they're coming for crosses, they're more likely to win the balls in, and it just relieves the pressure off you a little bit and offers you that little bit extra protection in those situations. So switching to that, in terms of saving outside the box, of course, as you'll all know, it's very much a counter-attacking system, dependent on a deep and robust line. Therefore, there's not really any need to switch into sweeper keeper because there shouldn't really be any occasions where, you're getting through balls over the top. People are getting one-on-one. If you are finding that as a problem, you can switch a sweeper keeper. But what I've found in these sort of systems is that, it's not really going to be too much of a problem. So you can keep that on balance should you so wish. The centre-backs will be absolutely fine. Another thing we always talk about, no need to change interceptions to aggressive unless I specify otherwise. The reason being is that if you do, you'll find that they'll get fatigued and they'll lose stamina a lot easier. And there's not really much of an upside to doing it compared to if you kept them on normal interceptions. So keep them on normal. There's no need to change them to conservative either and make them too passive. I think normal is perfectly fine and will work in this system. So now we can move on to the fullbacks. Of course, it would have been Danny Simpson and Christian Fuchs. In this situation here, we do, of course, have Pereira and Chilwell. And the only thing you want to change is the run type, and you want to change that to overlap. The reason you don't want to change this is because, of course, in some situations, you'll find the fullbacks would have stayed back, and it will also offer them more protection as well. If they're bombing on forward and overlapping every single time, then you've got a lot less protection. Let's say Kante or Drinkwater had to come out onto the right or the left to cover for one of the fullbacks, and then you leave yourself vacant in the middle. Therefore, if you keep this on balance, you'll find it's going to be much more situation dependent, and you're not going to find them both out of position on every attack, which is going to be very helpful for you. So yeah, just change these to overlap, and you'll tend to find that will work just fine. Now we can move on to the central midfielders. Of course, slightly different roles depending on which one. We'll class Ndidi as Kante and Tielemans as Danny Drinkwater. So first of all, we'll come on to that Kante role. So in this case, you want man mark, and the reason being is that what we talk about in these videos is how the opposition midfielders will tend to find themselves running into the box a lot more, and they won't get tracked by your midfielders. Therefore, they'll leave them open, and the chances are a cutback or a cross, and they're in a great opportunity to score. Now, to try and deal with this, switch your defensive midfielders both to man mark, and then hopefully they should be following those runs into the box, and you won't find as much of a problem. In terms of attacking support, you actually want these both on stay back while attacking. Therefore, they do still offer that protection. But then in interceptions, you actually want to change this to aggressive for Kante. Therefore, he's going to be replicating that role a little bit more. He's going to be getting around the park a bit more, pressing the opposition. At least in your half, and then whereas if you change it to Drinkwater, for example, keep that on normal, he'll be a little bit less sort of aggressive and optimum to win the ball back. So change him to aggressive. And in terms of defensive position, cover wing is absolutely fine, because you'll find that because you've left these unbalanced, they'll be less likely to be bombing on forward all the time, and you find it's less likely that they'll have to come out wide and fill in those areas. So you should be okay in the centre of the park. Now moving on to the wings, of course you have Mark Albrighton and Riyad Mahrez on either side. Of course we're going to class Albrighton as the left and Riyad Mahrez as the right. So first of all, coming on to the Albrighton role. So you want comeback on defence, obviously. What's important in this system is that you get your 2 banks of 4. And that is important for any 4-4-2 system. For example, Atletico Madrid, that's a system we've covered on this channel as well. And they're another one. Get your 2 banks of 4, because that is so important, and then it makes yourself harder to break down, because of course you're narrow, you're compact, and you're robust, and therefore you want both wingers on comeback on defence. In terms of chance creation, however, you want Albrighton, or Barnes in this case, to stay wide. That's because, and I'm going to get slaughtered in the comments for this, but Mark Albrighton doesn't really have many positive attributes. The only one he has is that he can whip in a good ball. But the problem is with that is that all he ever does is cross the ball. What he'll do is, when he was on the left, he'd cut back onto his right every time. He'd never use his left, cut back onto his right, and then try and whip in a ball. He'll never take people on one-on-one. He doesn't have the pace to run past people, so that's all he'd ever do. So therefore, he'd come out wide, he'd stretch the play, and then when he'd get the ball, he'd try and whip across in. Of course, with Mahrez, it was the other way around, but we'll come on to that shortly. And then in terms of support runs, you can leave this unbalanced. There's no need to, try and specify this and narrow it down as much as possible. Of course, it will depend on who you've got as well. Now, I doubt many of you are going to be playing Mark Albrighton. You might play someone with a bit more pace, Harvey Barnes, for example. So maybe you want to switch this up. But in terms of replicating the system, balance support is fine. Because he was very much, didn't specify himself in either role. In terms of support on crosses, you wanted to get into the box of the cross. What's hopeful in this system is that when you're whipping a ball in, you're going to have 3 or 4 players, usually the 2 strikers and the wingers in the box to receive it. And of course, one of them would usually be the one whipping the ball in. Have these both on get into the box. Now we can move on to Mahrez. Of course, come back on defence. We've already explained that one. In terms of chance creation, this time, however, you want him to cut inside rather than stay wide. Now, of course, this system, whilst it was a very good tactic, there was not a lot of gaping holes in it. It was reliant on 2 or 3 players to perform just out of their skin, to be them real pivot players, and that would have been Kante, Mahrez, and Vardy. And one of them that we're looking at now is, of course, Riyad Mahrez, who, he'd get the ball, he'd cut inside on his left, and he'd score so many goals from it, and players just didn't deal with it well enough. They didn't anticipate it enough, and so he was, he was having lots of joy in those reasons. So, what you want in terms of signing players for this role is someone left-footed, very good at finishing, very good at cutting inside and getting a shot away. And that's how you're going to get the best out of this right-sided midfielder, cutting in on his left foot. In terms of support runs, you can keep this unbalanced as well. Riyad Mahrez, a lot more versatile. We can come short, or he can get behind, as he's proven at Manchester City recently, with the way he's been playing as well. And in terms of support and crosses, you want us to get into the box of the cross as well, similar to what we did with Harvey Barnes on the other side. So now we can move on to the forwards. Usually it would be Shinji Okazaki and, of course, Jamie Vardy. So we'll obviously class Iheanacho as Okazaki. So first of all, they've got 2 different roles. First of all, with Okazaki, what you want is you want false 9. Now, let's find it here. There it is. So what you find with Okazaki is that he would very much drop off a little bit more. He'd be more of the workhorse, and Vardy would be the one getting in behind, playing on the last man, and that's how he scored so many goals. And in order to try and recreate that as best as possible, we're going to change Iheanacho here to a false 9. And we're also going to change his interceptions to aggressive as well. So what you'd find in this system is that despite the fact they drop back, the two strikers would press, and they would look to try and put the pressure on a defence to try and force opposition into long balls, and then they rely on the likes of Hoof and Wes Morgan to win the ball back high, low at the field. What this aggressive interceptions does is that it just makes them a little bit more active, in the sense that they'll press a little bit more, and when there's they're passing it between the opposition defence, etc. They're going to look to try and win the ball back, and that's going to be very important to the way you play. It's going to allow the midfielders to get back into their 2 banks of 4 and sit deeper, so the opposition can't hurt you too much while playing it over the top of them, but these will still work very hard. And then in terms of defensive support, you want Okazaki to come back on defence as well, because of course it would have been just Vardy playing up front, left up front, in order to play on the last man. And then we're going to move on to Vardy now. So of course, you want him to get in behind, that's the very first thing. But also you want him to drift wide in support runs as well. That's because he's going to be very much drifting around the opposition back forward, trying to find those spaces, trying to find the little holes and the little pockets to run in behind and take advantage of. And that's just going to, give him that more of that opportunity. So in the interceptions, again, as we just explained, switch that to aggressive. But then on defensive support, stay forward. So he's going to be your out ball. So that rounds it off for instructions. Now we can move on to the tactics. Of course, defensive style. Drop back is the very first one you want, and that is of course very self-explanatory. It's a counter-attacking system, and therefore it's going to be robust, and they're going to get back into their shape and regain it before trying to win the ball back. In terms of defensive width, you want to move this down to 3. What's very important in systems like this is to stop teams trying to play through you, and therefore you try and get narrow and compact. Then they've got to go out wide and whip balls in. They need the likes of Robert Hoof and Wes Morgan in the box. They're less likely to win balls. So that's how you try and deal with the fact you've only got 2 central midfielders there. And then in terms of depth, you want this on 4. The reason being is that if it's 3, it will become too deep, but you want to sort of keep the press going in your own box. So it'd be sort of like a mid-block press, in the sense that the strikers will be pressing high up the pitch. But then when the opposition go through them, or if the opposition go through them, then the press is going to come into the likes of the, your opposition, your half, basically. So keep this on 4, and then also the opposition are less likely to play balls over the top of you as well. In terms of offensive style, you want this on fast build-up. That's of course very self-explanatory. Again, with a counter-attacking system, you want your players getting forward as fast as possible. And with the pace that they had in the team, the likes of Vardy, the likes of Okazaki, Mahrez, and sometimes Demarai Gray as well, they could get forward very quickly and really hurt teams. So you've got to bear that in mind when you're, creating a team and you want to use this tactic. In terms of offensive width, you want this on 7. The reason being is that then when it's 8 and 9 and 10, it will go too wide, and you've got less options in the middle of the park in terms of short passes. But with 7, you'll find them still getting out wide and creating as much space as possible, and then the likes of the wingers can, really start to work. So if you have this on 7, that will just around be the right level that you're looking for. Moving on to players in the box next, we have this on 6, meaning that you'll have 3 players in the box. So the 2 strikers and 1 of the wingers as well. It usually be one of the other wingers who are whipping the ball in, so it should be okay. And then in terms of corners and free kicks, we always move these up to 4, because then it will leave you 2 men back, which is more than enough to counteract the opposition counter-attacking threat. But also then you'll have more players getting forward and more targets to aim at in the box. And set pieces are quite hard on this game, so that will sort of work out that very nicely. So that rounds it off for this tactic then, guys. If you made it through to the end, please do leave a like if you've enjoyed it, and let me know what I can do to improve. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then please do hit that subscribe button for more regular gaming content, and ring the bell as well so that you get notifications every time I upload. Keep bringing your suggestions to me. Got lots of videos coming up, but your suggestions are very, very important to me. So keep them coming through with tactics you want to see, etc., and any other videos you might wish to see as well. And on that note, we are going to finish it off there. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you soon.